Famous for its architecture, museums, alternative culture and nightlife, the city of Bristol in the southwest has recently been voted one of the best cities in the UK to live. The drive towards environmentally friendly practices and cultures has helped Bristol achieve the European Green Capital status for 2015 due to ambitious targets set forth to reduce carbon emissions. However, like many other cities across the UK, Bristol suffers from a litter problem. According to a recent Quality of Life survey conducted by Bristol City Council, 77% of Bristolians think litter is a problem in the city. Overfilling bins, fast food packaging, cigarette butts and chewing gum all contribute to messy-looking streets, pavements and public spaces. Many central hospitals suffer from unhygienic-looking entrances, with litter bins surrounded by chewing gum and cigarette butts. All in all, cleaning up the streets of Bristol costs £5 million a year. With its new green capital status, surely now Bristol should look the part. St Paul's Carnival in Bristol, one of the many attractions this vibrant city has to offer. Thousands of people come from across the country to this increasingly popular event. But with more and more people comes more and more litter. I went along to ask people what they might do with their rubbish.
You've got a plastic cup in your hand.
Yeah.
What are you going to do with that after you finish with it?
Well, I'm going to fill it back up now, and then when I finish with it, I'm going to put it in a bin. It doesn't belong on the streets.
So, do you drop your street litter on the floor, or do you take it with you?
I generally take it with me, yeah.
Yeah?
There is quite a lot around here.
Yeah.
I guess caught up in the emotions of the day, people are just going to drop it on the floor. It's pretty dirty.
We're going to put it in a proper bin.
Yeah.
We'll try and find a proper recycling bin for our aluminium. And it's all good. We're from the countryside, I never throw litter around, ever.
I wonder what kind of powers, if any, the police had at festivals or events, where it was clear many people would simply drop or leave their waste on the ground.
Well, on a day like this is just accepted that there's going to be a lot of litter afterwards, and the council just plan for it. And then if you look in the early hours of the morning, like 4 o'clock in the morning, you'll see the council here with massive great machines picking up all the litter. Here you're going to have a lot of litter, and to be quite honest with you, we were not going to be looking for people dropping litter here at the carnival. There's a lot more serious things that might go on that we'll be looking for. So.
I asked Simon what the normal powers a policeman would have outside of an event environment if they caught someone dropping litter.
We can issue fixed penalty notices for which obviously there's a financial cost for the drop of the litter. However, we wouldn't just do that naturally. If we see somebody drop it, we would normally say to them that you've dropped the litter, do you mind picking it up? If they don't want to pick it up, then we're going to issue a ticket. If they fail to give us their details, then they can even be arrested for dropping the litter, because we can't then give them a ticket if they fail to give us their details. But normally we'd always give somebody an opportunity to pick up the litter, and most people will pick up the litter. So
I returned to the St Paul's area of Bristol the next morning to see for myself the scale of the rubbish. I met Derek Pittett, an operations manager who is responsible for overseeing a clear-up operation that cost Bristol City Council over £12,000.
Okay, we've divided the area into five geographical areas. Each area's got a manager in charge of it and a set resource. We've got 73 people out today on the job, and each one of the managers will be responsible for their own geographical area. No one will go home until it's finished effectively.
Do you think, people seem to drop their litter in carnivals, it's kind of accepted? Do you think that attitude then spreads outside?
Oh, I do. Yeah, yes, I do. I think we as a society need to do a lot more to educate people about dropping litter. There's been a debate for a while now as to whether or not litter bins encourage the dropping of litter or they actually help it. I've been to places like Helsinki where there are no litter bins and they don't seem to suffer from a litter problem. So I think as people get used to dropping in a situation like there was yesterday, then they'll drop it later on in the day, and they'll drop it tomorrow and next week.
Some people turn around and say it's giving people a job to clean up, but actually that's not the way society should be. Society should be a lot more responsible, and it's irresponsible dropping litter, isn't it?
So how much waste exactly do you think you expect today?
Well, last year we collected just over 91 tonnes, and I've had a look around this morning, and I think it'll be the same this year. So it'll be around the 90 tonnes mark.
It is clear that events and festivals such as St Paul's Carnival produce an exceptional amount of litter in a concentrated area. People often adopt an attitude that litter they leave in cities will get cleared up by councils. What they may not be aware of is the harmful effects their rubbish might have on birds and wildlife that have migrated to cities, searching out food in our bins. I went to Secret World Wildlife Sanctuary just outside of Bristol to find out just how our waste is affecting wildlife.
Litter plays an awful lot of part in a lot of the injuries of animals that come into us. High on the list is fishing tackle, I'm afraid, because that's one of the things that people don't realise, that when they leave hooks and lines and lures around, that it can do dreadful damage to wildlife, to be perfectly honest. But now that wildlife is moving into towns, moving into cities, and they're tending to try and find food where there are people, then some of the things that we actually do to our rubbish or to our food means that has an effect on them and can very often harm them.
Pauline told me that smaller changes in the way people deal with their rubbish can lessen the harmful effects of litter on wildlife.
This is one we see quite a lot of, unfortunately, particularly hedgehogs, because of their spiky covering that they have. They do get very caught up in these sort of things. But similarly, we've had herring gulls and other birds where they literally get it caught, the plastic goes over the head, and it means they can't shut their mouths and they're unable to feed. And this sort of thing doesn't break down, so it's just really a question of them just starving to death over a long period of time.
In the last decade, Bristol City Council has driven towards higher and higher rates of recycling. The downside of this is an increase in additional plastic recycling boxes, blighting the look of many areas. Is this something residents must simply endure for the sake of recycling, or could we devise ways of keeping bins out of sight? The law states that you cannot leave bins and boxes outside 24/7. However, this is not policed. In 2013, Mayor of Bristol, George Ferguson, highlighted our litter problem by dumping a weekend's worth of street rubbish in the city centre for everyone to see. I asked the Mayor of Bristol this question: with Bristol being awarded European Green Capital for 2015, is it time we scrubbed the city up and made rules against bins being left in the street, more campaigns against litter, and created a city that stands out against its European compatriots in terms of cleanliness?
I totally agree. I did start a campaign which we need to really reboost on litter. I think it's such a big sign about individual and collective and community pride in a place. I looked out on College Green earlier, and there were 25 kids having a picnic out there, and the mess they left was appalling. And so somebody should have jumped on them really and dealt with it. So I think we should increase the vigilance and the level of fines, but I would like to do it in a much more positive way and encourage people that they are going to enjoy this city much more if they take notice. There are some people who are quite aggressive about dropping it, and they don't just carelessly drop it. So I think that I just ask all of you, be careful what you say to sometimes, but did you drop this by mistake and give it back to them? I once did that in London, and I was, just as I was getting onto the tube, and this very furious woman who had dropped the stuff, and I picked it up for her, managed to force her way through the doors and attacked me in the tube. So be careful who you say it to. Let's clean up the city as much as we can, but let's not clean up the character. There are an awful lot of interesting things that happen in this city that some people might judge as being messy, but actually make it more interesting. So what we clean up, but there are certain things that are absolutely unacceptable and we should be intolerant about them. And I will reboot my anti-litter campaign, and certainly shall do so in the next few weeks.
Another costly consequence of littering is chewing gum. Cleaning gum from the Broadmead area of Bristol costs £38,000 a year. Nationally, £150 million a year is spent on cleaning gum, but manufacturers are lagging behind in the development of a non-stick product.
From there to the bus stop for like 6 hours takes quite a long time.
Bristol University has been pioneering in the research and development of Rev 7, a chewing gum specifically designed to degrade over time in the rain. However, Rev 7's commercial success has been somewhat hindered, and it has recently been dropped completely from the US market. Wrigley's, who own an 83% share of the UK chewing gum market, told confectionarynews.com, "At this point we have not yet identified any external technology solution that would produce a chewing gum that is both easy to remove and acceptable to customers." Their best-selling products, Airwaves and Extra, do not provide individual packaging, allowing for their customers to dispose of each piece properly. Is this why we see chewing gum dotted around many bins in Bristol? Wayne Barlow, who supervises the cleaning of an area of Bristol city centre, told me about the increasing challenges he and his team face.
We basically were responsible for the whole of the Bristol city centre area and the Broadmead shopping centre. So amongst my band of brothers here of 25, we're responsible for the initial street cleansing, which is sweeping the streets, the dog ends, the litter that falls throughout the day. Then we have the graffiti, we're responsible for the removal of, reporting of, fly tipping, which is everywhere at the moment, and we do emptying all the street bins, cleansing street furniture, and dealing with any ad hoc jobs or tasks that we're asked of. Here we're probably estimating now another 2,000 students moving in within a 2 mile area by next year, so that's a horrendous amount of work involved.
In your view, what can we do as a general public to stop people littering, to stop making your job harder, basically?
Stop dropping litter for a start. Try to be more self-responsible. You know, be responsible for your own actions now. It seems sometimes some of the ways some of the rubbish have been discarded, it must take more effort to do it that way than do it through the proper channels. But you see people, especially on the evenings, this is a 24-hour city now. Like I said, within the last 3 years, you've had the introduction of an extended drinking licence, no smoking policy within clubs and bars and restaurants. So there's more waste now coming outside.
Over the last decade, our growing throwaway culture means that as individuals we are consuming more and more. In Bristol it appears that we have an efficient council clear-up operation, but as their workers have said, they feel that some people simply expect them to clear up after what is simply fly-tipped or left around the back of shops. It is hard to simply educate people about littering when young people are being directly targeted by advertisers to consume more and more. Bristol is a city that has done a lot in the last decade in terms of reducing its carbon footprint. Its ambitious targets have led to it becoming the European Green Capital for 2015. But from walking around my local area and down into Broadmead, the litter I see, the recycling boxes and the chewing gum on the streets undermine a city that claimed to have environmental issues at its forefront. Is it now time we educate more in schools and in universities about the effects litter can have on our environment and create a city that lives up to its name as European Green Capital? Fergus McKee for UE News.
Streets at night. the old time.